What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you for Tuesday, May 27th. This is Better Off Dead. As a reminder, I am currently not actually betting the plays that I'm giving out on the show, just to conserve some money here and be less risky for the time being. But if we track these as if they were bets, I believe I am going to finish with a winning month of May here, meaning that the only losing month so far this year, even though it was a terrible one, was March. So I believe I'm up on the year right now, even after that terrible March, somehow bouncing back from all that. It's been decent, even though yesterday was actually a losing day for me. I don't know that my handicap was really totally bad on those games. I mean, the St. Louis Cardinals lost in the earliest game there, but Eric Fedde, he wasn't that bad in the game, and at least two of the runs that he gave up were unearned runs. The defense was bad behind him. They were still in that game. There was the 3-run home run that happened, which is a little bit of a fluke. I mean, you get a little bit unlucky anytime you allow a multiple run home run like that there. Just the timing was good for the offense there for Baltimore, which, man, Baltimore, you'd think that fading them would work out, but it did not. You think fading them would work out, especially with Charlie Morton on the mound. It didn't. Morton, that was the one incorrect part of my handicap, really, is that Morton actually did way better than we would have expected him to do. So that was that. It still could have won without that 3-run home run happening in there, without some bad defense on the part of the Cardinals. We did get the win on the Toronto-Texas under, because that was a 2-1 final. It was basically just like, please don't go into extra innings, which is where unders go to die because of the stupid ghost runner. I cannot believe that I can't believe they instituted that in the first place, but that they never got rid of it. And it was one of the rules made up for COVID, because obviously that's scientific. Totally makes sense. I mean, try to come up with an explanation for that. You cannot. The one interesting thing about that game is I believe DeGrom, it was his first start ever where he didn't have any strikeouts, but he still was effective enough that he only gave up 2 runs in the game, and the bullpen came in and didn't allow anything, so the game still stayed under. DeGrom was not at his best, and he still limited Toronto's offense, which is crazy, and Gaussman was excellent in the game yesterday, so the under worked out there. And then I apologize for the extra play there in Minnesota that I gave out. I did like that one. I thought it was good. It was a 7-2 loss, although that game was 3-2 in the 8th inning. I think it was 3-2 late in the game. And then Funderburk, I think on Minnesota, he might have given up a grand slam. I don't even know what it was. He gave up 4 additional runs at the end of that game, making it look a lot worse than it was. The game was close, although Littell did pitch well for Tampa, which kind of did in Minnesota there. But that game, I believe it was a 0-0 game into like the 6th inning. So it was like, okay, this could happen. But then Paddock, I believe, pitching for Minnesota, was the pitcher that started unraveling a little bit first. I mean, he got a little bit tired, I think, and maybe if Minnesota went to the bullpen slightly earlier, maybe the result would have been different. But it's just the way that it is. So 1-2 day on the show yesterday. I mean, not terrible, not good, obviously, but it happens. Andrew, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right, let's get to today. So today, I'm going to give out a WNBA play and 2 baseball plays. So I'm actually, again, skipping NBA and NHL. Or I don't think I skipped it. Wait, did I skip NHL? Oh, I did yesterday. I skipped NHL, but my lean actually was correct in the NHL's. Carolina actually won and staved off elimination yesterday with a 3-0 win. But if you saw that game, it was really a 1-0 win, and they scored 2 empty net goals right at the end there. I had the game on. All right, so NBA, we got Knicks Pacers. The money is all coming in on the Knicks here, so I'll point that out. Pacers down from 2.5 to 2 here. 67% of tickets on the Pacers, but 72% of the cash coming in on the Knicks. So strong market read on the Knicks, and also a strong market read on the under, with the total dropping from 222 to 220, juice to the over. 60% of the tickets are on the over, because of course the public is only going to come in on the over in a Knicks Pacers, or in a Pacers game, I should say, because they push the pace and they score a ton. But 75% of the cash on the under, so the market read looks like Knicks and under, and I believe those results are actually correlated. fairly strongly, because I think if this is a high-scoring game, that absolutely benefits the Pacers. I don't want to make a play on this game, though, because I could see this going both ways. Like, in one way, you could argue that this is a zigzag spot for the Pacers and that they have been the better team in the series and they should have won the last game, as they're winning by 20 points in the last game and blew it. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen this many 20-point implosions in a single postseason. It might be the most in history. I don't know. But the Pacers had that lead. They had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter and somehow blew the game. So you could argue, well, the Pacers should have won that game. They were the better team. Yeah, I agree with that argument. You could make the same argument about the Knicks in game one, though. That happened to the Knicks. They had a big lead. It wasn't 20, but I think it was or it might have been close to 20, actually, maybe somewhere almost at 20. And I think it was still double digits in the fourth quarter, and they blew that game. So those results actually kind of even out a little bit. But overall, I would still agree with the statement that the Pacers have been the better team in the series so far. We are looking at a home game here for the Pacers. And last year, of course, the home team won every game of the series last year between the Knicks and the Pacers, except that the Pacers won Game 7 on the road. This series, the road team has won every single game. So it's like, well, which one is going to win out here? I don't know. And which one is going to win out as far as, well, on the one hand, the Pacers were the better team. They're the team that's probably going to be able to make adjustments here and zigzag back to a win here. But on the other hand, is it going to be like the Knicks coming into Game 2, and is that game, that first game result going to hang over the Pacers a little bit? Because I think that happened in the Knicks, which is why I didn't want to try to play the Knicks in Game 2. I gave them out as a play in Game 1, and they blew the game, of course. And then after the way they imploded like that, I did not like them to zigzag in Game 2. And that might be the situation here, where with the way the Pacers imploded like that, maybe they're not the right side in this game, which is ridiculous. If the Pacers win the first two games on the road in the series, setting themselves up with like 90-something% historical win rate in a series. When a team wins the first two games on the road, they almost never lose that series. And the Pacers, having set themselves up for that, if they lose this series, it's going to be ridiculous. So they are going to be motivated here. Both teams are going to be, obviously. But the Pacers do not want this series to be even and to completely lose home court. In a way, I could almost see the argument that the team that wins this game is going to win the series. But then again, there is an argument that the Pacers are better equipped for the later games in the series, just like they were last year. Although the Knicks were a very injured team last year, but still, Tom Thibodeau, he overuses his starters. He runs the starters into the ground. The Knicks play like they're starting five for a ton of minutes, and they don't have as deep of a bench rotation as the Pacers do, which should also help the Pacers a little bit with the fact that it looks like Nesmith hurt his leg in the last game, so I don't know if he's going to play or not in this game, but I don't think it affects the Pacers that much, losing one of their role players. I think they can easily kind of pick up the slack there, because the Pacers really go with an 8, 9, even 10-man rotation. So actually, I would probably say, more closer to a 10-man rotation that the Pacers have going on. So there's a lot to kind of consider in this game. I'm not going to have anything to do with this game, though. So the market read is very, very strong on the Knicks. I hope that doesn't happen, because I'm obviously rooting against the Knicks here as a Celtic fan, but we will see. I would probably have to lean with the market, though, unfortunately. I would slightly lean to the Knicks and the under in that game and agree with the market there, but I'm not going to have a play on that. I almost was going to have a play in the NHL game on Dallas, because this seems like a spot where it's got to be a zigzag spot, man. I mean, Edmonton up from minus 158 to minus 160 now. It seems like there's got to be some value in taking Dallas at plus 140, whatever. You can get a decent underdog price. If you wanted to do that, I wouldn't really tell you not to. This was a play that I almost was going to give out on the show here. 58% of tickets, 75% of the cash on Edmonton, though. So I don't love... The two things I don't love are that the market read looks like it's on Edmonton here. Actually, three things. Edmonton is definitely good at home, and Skinner has just been playing really well right now. It's kind of like trying to fade a hot pitcher. If you're trying to fade a hot goalie, sometimes you run into issues doing that. So Maybe that's an issue, although I expected Ottinger for Dallas to bounce back. But now he's been bad a couple games in a row, and Skinner has been really hot a couple games in a row. So now it's like, well, maybe he's getting hot at the right time, and maybe I don't want to actually come in and fade them here. Although I still would lean Dallas because Dallas is coming off two really ugly losses in a row, a shutout loss and then a 6-1 loss. And statistically, I don't think this game was as lopsided as the score looks. Yes, I know, Ottinger didn't play well. The Stars gave it up late in the game. I think, was there an empty net? No, I guess there wasn't. There was one power play goal. I thought there was an empty net. I guess there wasn't. But Dallas outshot Edmonton, so that tells you how bad the goaltending really was for Dallas. If they allowed 6 goals on 24 shots on goal, I mean, that's a really, really bad ratio, and that's way worse than what Ottinger put up this entire year. So you got to expect Ottinger will improve off of that. I mean, there's no way he's that bad. Edmonton was the more physical team, which does worry me slightly, but Dallas was kind of the better offensive and possession team, although you could argue that a lot of these shots were just kind of because they started getting desperate when they were way behind. That does happen. So a lot of times if a team is getting blown out in a game, you will see their shot total wind up higher just for that reason. But if you look at how that game played out, I think that the Stars were kind of matching Edmonton's amount of shots, even when they weren't losing by that much. So there's kind of a lot to consider here. But I would say statistically overall, this game was not as lopsided as the score would make it look. So I would still lean to Dallas. I think that's where the value is, just getting them as a big underdog here in a spot where they have all the adjustments to make here. And it's kind of desperation time for them, getting a huge underdog price. And now they're at least settled in up there and kind of used to being in Canada again. Although, granted, they've lost every game in Canada in the playoffs so far, except that first game against Winnipeg, which I would say that one was a little bit misleading. So I probably got lucky with my Dallas play on that one, but we will not actually have a play on that. WNBA, I am going to have a play in the WNBA. There is actually a play that I like in the WNBA here. I could just kind of quick hit these, but Dallas, Connecticut, both of these teams are bad, and Connecticut is so bad that they're a 4.5-point underdog against Dallas, which is a team that should improve as we get later into the season with, all the new components that they have there. But right now, they're a winless team. I think Connecticut is also winless, so it's crazy. But yeah, the odds makers are telling you Dallas actually has the better skill set, at least. Maybe this will be their first win. I believe they don't have a win yet, as they're a favorite on the road here. But they are coming off a couple of tough games against Minnesota and Atlanta and playing a third straight road game. So it doesn't look like exactly the greatest spot to try to come in and jump in on Dallas there. The line has crept up a little bit from 4.5 to 5.5. I'm not going to touch that game, but both teams not very good, but Connecticut is probably the worst team in the entire league this year. So I won't touch this game. I don't even know what Connecticut did in their last game. They lost in blowout fashion to Atlanta. So actually, Dallas just played Atlanta as well, and they played them closer to a decent extent. So that might actually, if the public was actually playing WNBA at all, that might make them want to play Dallas here because, Dallas played Atlanta closer. So they do that kind of transitive property thing. Doesn't always work that way. In this case, I don't know what I would want to do in this case, to be honest. I do think the spot just doesn't set up that well for Dallas, so I would stay away personally. Golden State and the Liberty. The Liberty are coming off a big win over the Indiana Fever, in which Caitlin Clark got hurt, by the way, and she's going to be out for 2 weeks. So we can talk about that with tomorrow. The only game on the WNBA slate does involve the Indiana Fever. So I will probably mention it then. I don't know if I'm going to jump on that injured player spot or not because Indiana and the Liberty are both coming off that big game. They played against each other. That was a big game for both teams. Two of the better teams in the league, really. Big win for the Liberty. They got the win on the road, actually. So I think they actually pulled off an up. Or no, they weren't. No, they were still favored. Never mind. I was going to say, was that an upset? But no, the Liberty, they're probably still the best team in the league. So they were still favored on the road at the Fever, who are still kind of up and coming a little bit. Still a big win for the Liberty, though, nonetheless. It was a big game. Now they're just laying a shit ton of points, 16.5 at home against Golden State. I would not lay that many points in a spot like that with the Liberty. I almost said the Knicks again. The Liberty, they're up from 16.5 to 17.5, so the money looks like it has come in on them a little bit, but I think it's way way too large of a spread to lay coming off a big game like that and playing a team they probably don't really care about that much against the Valkyries. Nobody cares. They actually play them twice in a row, which is kind of interesting. So there might be a zigzag opportunity in the second game, but we'll stay away from that. The next game up is the game that I actually like, and that's laying the points with the Minnesota Lynx, -6.5. They're one of the best teams as well. Seattle has been hot, but I think the Lynx, this spot sets up really nicely for them. They're up from 6 to 7 now, so if you do agree with me and you like this one, I would try to find the 6.5. I think you could still find it out there. 7 is a key number in basketball just because it's when teams stop intentionally fouling because it's a 3-possession threshold, although in the WNBA, you never really know what happens because we're talking about... Honestly, it's really a stupid sport, so stupid things happen in the WNBA, but these favorites, a lot of times they tend to cover like late in the game as well, but we're going to have a play on the Lynx here. My WNBA is off to a 4-1 start here, so I think my situational handicapping has been right on, and this fits into my situational handicapping, I think, quite nicely as well, which I'll explain in a second. I should probably be 5-1 because I should have given out Minnesota in their first game. I liked it against this newly formed Dallas team, which they need to form, to get some chemistry there. But this Minnesota team, they're better than Seattle. They're one of the best teams in the league, and we're looking at Seattle here. Seattle's coming off a huge win over the Las Vegas Aces. That was a huge win for Seattle. Vegas was actually a 5.5-point road favorite in that game. Seattle's undefeated at home, and Seattle got the job done. Just never in doubt. They won the game easily against really one of the top teams in the league, the Aces. And the odds makers are telling you that Las Vegas is actually better than Seattle, as they're 5.5-point favorites on the road in that game. But that was a huge win for Seattle. But if you look at the statistics, Seattle had like the best shooting performance that you're ever going to see out of a WNBA team, man. They shot 60% from the field and 50% from three-point range. Highly unlikely it's going to happen again. Scoring 102 points. You don't see that in the WNBA, man. So I think they're a really, really prime regression candidate here because they're coming off a huge upset win at home. And I think that's just not a good spot, even though I know they're playing another good team here. But can you really keep that up multiple games in a row against multiple good teams in a row, including having to travel and now go on the road? I don't really think so. Seattle, I believe, is only 1-1 on the road. Most of their wins have come at home. I was on them, of course, in the game prior to this one because I actually liked how the spot set up for them in that game. Gave it out on the show. Now I think they're just a huge regression candidate. I mean, 60% from the field. You almost never see that in the WNBA. I mean, you don't even see that in the NBA, really. But WNBA, that's just absurd. 50% from three. Yeah, you're not going to see that again. I think there's never been really a more prime regression candidate than Seattle here. Meanwhile, Minnesota's coming off a couple of real lackluster games against two bad teams. The teams I just talked about, Dallas and Connecticut, who are the two Connecticut is the worst team in the league. I think Dallas is down there as well, near the bottom, at least right now. I don't think either team has any wins on the season. So the fact that Minnesota just kind of skated by them, I think they were just taking both teams lightly, and I don't think Minnesota really was taking those games seriously. But after this game against Connecticut, if you look how this game played out, Minnesota was getting absolutely annihilated for most of this game by the worst team in the league, the Connecticut Sun. Minnesota was a 16.5-point favorite in this game, and they were losing almost the whole game. So do you think that's going to refocus them? Because I do. Even though, yeah, they had to make a furious comeback late in the games. They were losing by double digits up until there were like 4 minutes left in the game. So, yeah, maybe they'll be a little bit tired because they had to make a ridiculous comeback late in the game. But I think it's more the case that they know they just got away with one in a game they should have won really, really easily. They got a huge scare here. And I think really they just showed up thinking the game was going to be easy and just didn't care about it. And Minnesota had a horrific shooting game. 39.1% from the field, 29.2% from three. They won the turnover battle. I don't know how they lost the rebound battle, to be honest. In Minnesota, you got to expect that's going to shock them back into focus here. They're probably going to have a much, much better game coming off of that. They're a prime progression candidate here after having a really, really bad shooting game. They should progress back to some sort of mean here, whereas Seattle should regress after they had a ridiculous shooting game. So I think it's a really, really great spot to lay the points with Minnesota. That's that's the play there in WNBA. And then we do have a couple other games here with Atlanta and the LA Sparks, where the line has actually flipped on LA from +1 to -1.5. So LA has flipped favorites there, which usually is some indicator there is some actual money there. I don't know if it's kind of like a setup type of thing or a middle thing where guys sometimes come in and just try to play both teams as an underdog just to guarantee a very small profit, that type of thing. I think it probably is a legitimate move, though, on the Sparks. I mean, I would probably agree with it. The Sparks just broke like an ugly loss streak with a win over Chicago, who Chicago really sucks as well. I mean, Angel Reese, yeah, whatever. Like, she's a good rebounder, I guess. She can't shoot for shit. So that was a nice win for LA, regardless, though, as they had fallen into one of those revenge scenarios where Golden State got revenge against them. They bounced back with a win, breaking the loss streak. So that kind of ends their losing momentum, which is pretty good, whereas Atlanta kind of coming up, a couple of games against bad teams, so they might be feeling a little bit higher on themselves just because they're coming off a 24-point win. If you beat anybody by that margin, you're kind of feeling pretty good about yourselves there, so I could see some argument for LA there. I wouldn't say it's strong by any means. And then Phoenix is actually down from 7.5 to 6 against Chicago. Angel Reese's team there with Chicago. I don't know what we're going to get out of them, as they're winless on the season so far. They've actually only played 3 games, whereas most teams have played 4 or 5 by now. I mean, Chicago might be in a spot where maybe they'll play better here against Phoenix. Phoenix is coming off a win where I gave them out on the show, and they had a double-digit lead in the game, blew the entire lead, and then had to come back and win and cover, which they still did, luckily for me. But they should have won that game more easily, in my opinion, Phoenix. But Phoenix is coming off a scare and then against a pretty bad Washington team. So I don't know that Phoenix is really in that bad of a spot. They might be in a spot where they're kind of like scared straight, just like I said with Minnesota. So I don't know what I would do with that game. I think both of those teams probably are going to show up. The money looks like it is coming in on... whoops, what did I just do? I think I just... What did I thought I closed my window. No, I didn't. That would have sucked if I closed the... If I closed StreamYard. It would still be up, though. I just have to rejoin it. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what I would do. I think both of these teams are going to show up focused here, but the money seems like it is coming in on Chicago. All right, let's not talk about WNBA anymore here, but I do really like the play on Minnesota. I'm going to give out 2 baseball plays here. Let's run through this. Dodgers and Cleveland. Dodgers won yesterday. Now, they are going to have to face kind of Cleveland's ace here in Tanner Bibby, but Bibby, he really does not have good numbers against the Dodgers. He is coming off a good start against Detroit, 7-inning shutout, 8 strikeouts. So I would say he's in pretty good form right now. He's a pretty good pitcher overall, but against the Dodgers, his numbers not great. Small sample size, though, 23 at-bats, but a 304 average, 993 OPS. So I really don't want to have anything to do with Bibby there. Dustin May, on the other hand, is pitching okay. 4.09 ERA, 1.24 whip on the season. Bibby's, by the way, 1.21 whip, 3.57 ERA. So both pitchers have whips that are a little bit higher than I personally like to see. I like to see a whip below 1.2. But May is also coming off a nice 8 strikeout performance against a pretty good Dodgers lineup where he only gave up 1 run on a solo home run. So he pitched well in that game. Against Cleveland, he really does not have... there's almost no history there, although Hedges is 1-for-1 with a home run off him. But I don't know how much you could really take away from that. So it's up in the air what we think about May against Cleveland's offense here. May have a little bit of an advantage just because Cleveland has never seen him before. He may also suck. So, I mean, I could see some arguments for an over in that game just because I don't think Bibby is going to be as good as he normally is, and the total has moved up from 8 juice to the under to 8.5 juice to the over. 73% of tickets on the over and 85% of the cash on the over. So there is money on the over and actually money on LA as well, up from -125 to -136. 80% of tickets, 88% of the cash on LA. I don't really disagree with either of those, to be honest. I don't think they're that strong, but I think May have a little bit of an advantage just because he's unknown to Cleveland, whereas Bibby has bad numbers against the Dodgers. But then again, if the money's coming in on the over, that probably means both starters might struggle in this one. So we'll see what happens. St. Louis and Baltimore. I mean, I was considering maybe looking at Baltimore here. I know St. Louis lost for me yesterday, but this is a different scenario here where Andre Palante is pitching for St. Louis. He's not very good. 1.34 whip is definitely too high. 4.18 ERA is okay, but he's coming off a game where he walked 4 guys and only struck out 3. I know it was against Detroit. It was pretty good. Palante is kind of limited the damage, not allowing more than 4 earned runs in any start, but he's just been very, very mediocre every start. And again, he just walks way too many guys. He doesn't strike out a lot of guys. His strikeout walk ratio is not very good. Against Baltimore, his numbers are also not good, although it's a very small 7 at-bat sample size. He's allowed 2 home runs to Henderson and Mullins, a 286 average overall and 1,429 OPS. So I don't like how it sets up for Palante there. And Sugano, I do like how it sets up for Sugano. I think, again, he's one of the most underrated pitchers right now, man, to the point where, like I said, even the stats guys don't like him because he doesn't strike anybody out, but he really limits the damage, doesn't put guys on base. He's one of the most effective pitchers that I've seen in their first year coming over from Japan, partially because guys are unfamiliar with him, but I think partially because he's had such a long professional baseball career. He's not really thrown off by the transition to the States and whatever. I think he's just used to being a professional pitcher. He's a professional, baby. 1.02 whip, very, very good. 3.07 ERA. It's just that, again, he doesn't strike a lot of guys out, but he doesn't walk a lot of guys, doesn't allow a lot of hits, hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in any start, and that was only once, a couple starts ago against Minnesota. He's definitely having an effective season. Of course, St. Louis has never seen him before, so I would have to give Baltimore the starting pitching edge in that game, but it looks like the money is completely disagreeing with that as it's flipped St. Louis from plus 100 to minus 108, 60% of tickets, 74% of the cash coming in on St. Louis. So the money is disagreeing with that, which kind of worries me a little bit. I don't love fading the market. I mean, a lot of times I'll just be like, whatever, balls to the wall. I'll trust my handicap more, but I don't know, man. It's a little bit worrisome, and I guess Baltimore's offense, that's been struggling, and their bullpen that's not very good, that all factors into the complete game handicap as well. I would say if you like Baltimore, maybe a first 5-inning play might make more sense, because I do think they have a definitive starting pitching edge in this game, in my opinion, with Sugano, who's really the only Baltimore starter that I trust to any degree at all. San Francisco and Detroit is going to be the one side I'll give out here, and I like the Giants. Even though, yes, I know Detroit is good at home, but again, as I pointed out, Detroit has started playing a little bit worse at home as they just almost got swept at home by Cleveland. Only Scoobo was able to prevent the sweep there. Detroit did win yesterday to win the first game of the series, and I think San Francisco might be able to bounce back in this one. And, of course, I'm going to tell you in a minute, I like the starting pitching matchup here for San Francisco, obviously. But Detroit, a lot of their wins at home have been against lesser teams than San Francisco. Yeah, it's possible that San Francisco is not quite as good as they looked so far this season. It's possible that's the case with Detroit as well, though. I know we're fading Detroit being very good at home, but the fact that San Francisco's favored on the road, that means something, man. And San Francisco up from minus 116 to minus 120. It looks like they have 55% of the cash coming in on them with 52% of the tickets on Detroit. So Detroit's slightly public, but it looks like the money coming in on the San Francisco side. The public will look and say, well, Detroit's good. They're really good at home. We know both these pitchers are pretty good, so grab the underdog price at home. It looks pretty tempting to take Detroit at an underdog price. But again, the odds makers are not throwing money away. They know what they're doing here. And they know a couple of things. And one thing is that Detroit, they did use a lot of their relief pitchers yesterday, man. With Montero having started yesterday, they used basically the entire back end of their bullpen, had to get into the game yesterday to save that game. Whereas San Francisco kind of saved their bullpen by using Bivens and Hicks. So San Francisco did not use their best bullpen arms yesterday. They kind of saved the game after Birdsong didn't last very long in the game. Detroit was ahead, so they kind of had to use their best relievers to save that game. And they used more of their relievers. So I think the bullpen situation sets up nicely for the Giants. And the Giants still, I believe, have the best bullpen ERA in baseball. They're one of the best bullpens. So that looks good for me for a full gameplay here as well. San Francisco probably wanting to bounce back after that loss. That looks pretty good for me as well for San Francisco. And we got Logan Webb on the mound, man. He's San Francisco's ace. 2.67 ERA, 1.2 whip. He's coming off a pretty ugly outing, but the defense really kind of hurt him, I think. He had a 5-0 strikeout walk ratio in the game, so his command really wasn't the problem in the game. He did allow 10 hits against Kansas City, which is definitely concerning, but you can see half of the runs he allowed were unearned. 3 unearned runs came home in that game, and there was a home run that he allowed in the game. I think it's just innings got extended just because the defense behind him just kind of imploded on him in that game. So I don't think the entirety of that game, it wasn't really his fault completely. Like, the defense definitely let him down. He didn't pitch quite as bad as it looks there. He's been really good, man. I mean, it's basically, since the start of the season, he's allowed more than 300 runs only once, which was at San Diego. Good pitcher's park, but San Diego does have a good offense. He did have a 6-1 strikeout walk ratio still in that game as well. He's allowed 3 or fewer earned runs in all of his other appearances this season, all of his other starts. Month of May, 2.42 ERA, 24-5 strikeout walk ratio. Definitely pitching well still. And against Detroit, 29 at-bats worth, 12-1 strikeout walk ratio. Yeah, Torres has a home run off him, but other than that, really not a whole lot going on. He's held him to a 103 average and 375 OPS. So I know it's not a huge sample size, but Webb has had Detroit's number when he's faced them. So that looks good for me for Logan Webb. He is a little bit worse on the road than he is at home, but he's just good in general, so I'm not as worried about that. And then Jack Flaherty, on the other hand, yes, he has pitched better at home than on the road, which does worry me a little bit, but I just think he's the lesser of the two pitchers, and he's not in as good form, even though I know his whip is actually a little bit better than Webb's, 1.18, but a 4.39 ERA, and he's just less consistent than Logan Webb, man. Webb consistently gets out there and gives you a lot of innings, and you can see that's not really the case. Flaherty pitches less deep into basically every game, as he's only gone more than 5 2/3 once since April 22nd. So Flaherty, and he's only done it twice the entire year. So Flaherty basically consistently is out of the game before he finishes 6 innings, which isn't a great sign. He hasn't been that good this month with a 6 ERA. 26-7 strikeout walk ratio is decent, but he did walk 3 guys in his last outing, 6 over the last 3 outings. So he's having some problems, I think. So I don't love how this sets up for Flaherty. Really, I prefer Webb like pretty significantly, even though Flaherty does have pretty good numbers overall on the season. I mean, both pitchers do, but again, Logan Webb is a grinder. He goes deeper into games, and that's going to potentially hurt Detroit as well, because you're already looking at Detroit as a team that has the less rested bullpen coming into this, and they have to go to the bullpen earlier as well. I don't think that sets up very well for Detroit. And up against San Francisco, Flaherty's numbers are kind of mediocre and 32 at-bats. He does have 10 strikeouts, which is pretty good. Damas has 2 home runs off him, which doesn't matter that much, but he's allowed a 250 average to them, which is pretty good, but 783 OPS is on the higher side, as he's got 3 walks, a double, 2 home runs against them, so it hasn't all been great for Flaherty. I prefer Webb in the game. I like how it sets up, so San Francisco is going to be the play in that one. I'm recommending that as an actual play. Atlanta, Philadelphia, this one is getting interesting here. I would probably lean to Atlanta a bit here. Philadelphia's returning home from a road trip that took them out into the mountains, into Colorado, and then to the Pacific Coast. And not only did that all happen, but they lost a long win streak here, as they had won, I think, 9 games in a row, and then they finally lost a game to finish the road trip. So I think the public, their reaction is going to be, well, Philadelphia's back at home. They're the team that has a way better record over Atlanta. They're going to bounce back, right? Well, I would say not so fast. That's not the way that it usually works. As teams that return home from a road trip, especially one that takes them like across the country like this, and they're away for a while, they have to get back to family life. They have stuff to do. It could be a little bit of a distraction. Yes, I know this is a divisional game, but Philadelphia has a big lead over Atlanta right now. Yes, they're fighting with the Mets for sure. It's still a big series when you face Atlanta. I'm not going to deny that, but I think it's bigger for Atlanta, as Atlanta is far behind right now. That's mostly because Atlanta had like an 0-7 start to the season, and since then they've actually been an above 500 team. Like they're actually 5 games above 500 or whatever since then. So Atlanta's not anywhere near as bad as their record looks. So all of that kind of would put me on the Atlanta side here. And Atlanta, I believe, is starting a road trip, which is also a positive spot. When you get out of home and you start a road trip, and they're on the East Coast, so So they're already in the Atlantic time zone, whereas Philadelphia is changing time zones from 3 time zones over. So this sets up a lot better for Atlanta, in my opinion. And starting a road trip is usually a focus spot for a team. And for the reasons I already stated, they should be focused against Philadelphia here because they're starting a series against the top team in the division. So I think it's a bigger focus spot and a bigger game for Atlanta. So situation-wise, looks like a nice spot to look to Atlanta, and I probably still agree with it. It's just the starting pitching matchup does raise some question marks here. Both teams did not play yesterday, so the bullpens are rested, although Philadelphia's bullpen is definitely a concern. Their bullpen hasn't really been that good, and I'm pretty sure their closer is actually suspended for a large portion of the season for PEDs, so that's not good. Spencer Strider is pitching for the Braves, and I think the worry here is that we don't know if he's back into form yet. I mean, he does have an 8-2 strikeout walk ratio so far, which is not bad. Yeah, it's my ad block. I hate how ad block will like update and then it will like pop up a new like tab for you. Like, we just updated. Yeah, fuck you, man. Like, you're supposed to be blocking like pop-ups on me, man, not give me one. But ad block, I mean, good extension, man. I mean, you want to block those ads for sure. Spencer Strider, though, I mean, his strikeout walk ratio is pretty good, but it looks like he's still trying to get back into form here, man. He's coming back from injury, and he was very, very good before his injury, but he hasn't been quite that good in these 2 starts. His first start was decent against Toronto, but then he kind of regressed a little bit against a Washington team that really isn't that good. So he's not really in good form right now, and I do think he's going to start improving, and we're going to start seeing, the old Strider again at some point. He's going to take strides, but it might not be in a game like this, a tough matchup up against Philadelphia on the road. Could be a little bit difficult. He's got a 5.79 ERA, 1.39 whip across those 2 starts, which doesn't really matter that much because it's a really small sample size. He has been good against Philly in a huge sample size of 207 at-bats. He has 82 strikeouts to 18 walks against them, so he has a ton of experience against Philly. It does mean that they've seen him a lot, but they really have not been able to hit him very well. 193 average in that big a sample size is actually insane. The OPS is a little bit higher because he has given up some home runs, some walks, 610 OPS overall, but overall Strider does have good numbers. Even that 610 OPS is pretty low, so his numbers are good against Philadelphia. Ranier Suarez pitching for Philadelphia here. Off to a good start to this season. He had a delayed start to the season due to injury, 3.7 ERA, 1.19 whip. Just like I said early last year, I don't think he's quite as good as these numbers look, but he has been pitching pretty well, so he is in good form right now. He's coming off a 6 2/3 inning shutout where he did walk 3 guys, which is a little bit of a concern, but that was at Coors Field, and he didn't allow any runs, and of course, no home runs. So that was a good performance from him overall in a tough pitching environment at Coors Field, even though I know the Rockies' offense sucks. But whenever you pitch at Coors Field, it is pretty difficult. So I would say Suarez, he had one really bad start to start the season, and since then he's allowed 0, 3, and 0 earned runs, and he's gone 6 2/3 or more in every one of those starts, so he is in good form right now. So I don't really want to fade Suarez and jump on Strider just because of their current form. It doesn't look like the way... It doesn't look like we can quite make a play on this, I should say. Suarez, a lot of experience against Atlanta as well, or they have a lot of experience hitting him. 158 at-bats. They do have 7 home runs off him, but he has held him to a 241 average, but a somewhat high 735 OPS. So Strider does have the better numbers overall, and Atlanta is in the better spot. Strider has the better matchup numbers, I should say, and Atlanta is in the better spot. So I still would give out a lean on Atlanta. And now, oh man, it looks like the market read. Do I want to add another play on the fly here? Holy crap. I kind of want to, man. Because one of the things keeping me off of this earlier was the market read. And now it's almost looking like the market read is agreeing with me. As Philadelphia is just sitting up from -105 to -107, but 70% of the tickets and only 62% of the cash on them. And let me see. Action Network does have some... metrics as well, which sometimes are not the same that we see the market metrics there. Sometimes it's not the same that we see with with pregame there. Let me see. Yeah, it's a little bit different. Action Network has a higher money percentage on Philly, but they do have them very public, and they do have a couple of their indicators being on the Braves otherwise. I like the Braves, though, here, man. You know what? I'm only 1-2. It seems like every day I'm adding a play on the fly, and they're only 1-2 over the last couple of days. And the one that won probably should have been a loss with the Cubs, to be honest. But we got kind of lucky on that one. But let me see. I mean, I think the handicap is solid here on the Braves. You can get them at minus 105 right now. And again, we're looking at a situation where Philly has a 34-19 record and Atlanta's 25-27, and yet it's like pick the winner, or Atlanta's almost a favorite on the road. And if you look at these guys, these starting pitchers' ERAs, the public's going to look at all that and think, like, I got to take Philly here, right? Like, why would I ever take the Braves who have a losing record, have a pitcher with a terrible ERA? You know what? Strider's going to make strides here, man. He's going to come back at some point. He's not going to be as bad. Braves. We'll add the Braves as a play. Minus 105. Here we go, baby. Oh, man. I hate myself for doing it, but I think it's a nice fade the public spot there. When you have a public home favorite, like their public home team that like is kind of almost not even the favorite, 70% of tickets, only 62% of the cash, it is the way to fade it. And I just gave you a bunch of reasons to do so there. And I think Atlanta does have the bullpen edge as well. So Philly has the better offense, but we're going with Atlanta in that game. Minnesota, Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay caught me yesterday with a win. Again, that was a lot closer than the final score looked, though. And I think Tampa did have to use a little bit more of their better bullpen arms, like a few, I don't even remember. They didn't use a few more of their arms, but I think they used some of their better bullpen arms than Minnesota did. To kind of save the game here and hold it off a little bit. Both teams used 3 relief pitchers, but I think Tampa used a couple of their better relievers there. Both teams have decent bullpens, though, but on the surface, I would say Joe Ryan, I mean, he's definitely the better pitcher over Taj Bradley. Joe Ryan is definitely an ace. 2.68 ERA, 0.81 whip. Really, really good numbers. Just great numbers on the season. Really, really low walk rate. Great strikeout walk ratio. Really low hit rate as well. It's continuing this month with a 1.96 ERA in May. 28-4 strikeout walk ratio in May. And against Tampa, no different really. In 28 at bats, he's held to a 143 average. 414 OPS. So Joe Ryan, really, really good stuff. I mean, he's a great pitcher overall. There's not a whole lot else to say about that. And he's good historically against Tampa. Taj Bradley, not as good. 4.61 ERA, 1.31 whip. Those numbers not as good. 19-9 strikeout walk ratio with a 4.64 ERA in May. That's not as good either. Definitely struggling a bit, Bradley. I mean, he's not as good of a pitcher just in general. I don't know what else to say. I mean, he walks too many guys. Against Minnesota, though, he does have pretty good numbers of 44 at-bats, 205 average, 648 OPS, 11-2 strikeout walk ratio. So Minnesota's offense isn't really the greatest. So Bradley actually does have better numbers against him. So I hesitate a little bit. I would still lean to Minnesota slightly because Ryan is still definitely better than Bradley, up from minus 116 to minus 117, 64% of tickets, 75% of the cash, on Minnesota. So the money's coming in on Minnesota. Tampa, I mean, you're having to step in front of this win streak that they have, where they've won 7 or 8 games in a row. Although, of course, Joe Ryan is so good that he could easily halt Tampa's win streak. I think it's a little bit of a false win streak. I still don't think Tampa Bay is that good. The under, though, might make more sense here, actually. Well, it depends what you think. Do you think the matchup numbers mean more, or do you think that, like, season stats and current form mean more? Because that is the difference there. If you think the matchup numbers mean a little bit more, then the under makes more sense because you think Bradley might do decent in this game. Total does have 60% of tickets on the over, but only 56% of the cash on the over, although it's moved up a little bit with more juice on 8 juice to the over. I would lean to the under, though, because I think the matchup numbers definitely count for something. But if you do think that the current form and the season-long statistics matter more than that, then you probably like Minnesota. But I don't disagree with either of those. The Minnesota side and the under, I think, are both worth considering in that game. I'm not making a play, though. White Sox and the Mets. The Mets barely escaped yesterday. I think they won late in the game after they were losing almost the whole game to the White Sox. They won 2-1. Take away from that what you will. Jonathan Cannon against Tyler Miguel. Cannon actually not pitching that bad this month. He actually hasn't walked anybody this entire month, and he has a 2.74 ERA, 15 strikeouts. Even though he's not really a strikeout guy, hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start, and that was a tough road start against the Cubs. He's made 3 road starts in the month of May, and he still has numbers like this, and including one at Great American Ballpark where he didn't allow any runs, and against the Cubs on the road, which is a very difficult assignment. So Cannon is actually pitching pretty well this month, I would say. So he's in pretty good form. And against the Mets, 15 at-bats, very small sample size. Soto does hurt him. Soto's 2 for 3 off him with 2 home runs, but other than that, I mean, it's a 200 batting average that he's allowed to the Mets, but a 968 OPS because it's such a small sample size. And Soto with those 2 home runs really skewing the OPS. But if you don't care about one guy really, really hammering him, I would say that overall Cannon does have pretty good numbers against the Mets offense, even though their offense is pretty good. Miguel is pitching for the Mets here. 3.56 ERA is good. 1.35 whip is way too high, though. Miguel walks too many guys. He's coming off kind of an odd performance against the Red Sox where he had 10 strikeouts, but he threw way too many pitches, 85 and 4 2/3 innings. He only gave up 1 run, walked 1 guy, and they still took him out prior to getting to the 5 innings just because he threw way too many pitches. So in 3 straight starts, he hasn't even thrown 5 innings. So that is a little bit concerning. 27-11 strikeout walk ratio. His walk rate is way too high this month, and he has a 6.88 ERA this month as well. So definitely some cause for concern with Miguel. Of course, against the White Sox, though, he could easily bounce back because their offense sucks. 17 at-bats, very small sample size. He's held to a 176 average and 458 OPS. So Miguel, he's not in good form right now, but again, good numbers against the White Sox, and their offense is so bad that I could see arguments for the under in this game. And I think Cannon kind of a sneaky pitcher to play an under with, as he actually is better than he looks, I think, at this point. Total has dropped from 8.5 juice to the under to 8 juice to the under. 86% of tickets. This says 100% of the cash on the over, along with 86% of tickets on the over. I don't know if I buy that or agree with that. I would lean to the under in that one. Of course, you can't really play the Mets at a price like that. My Boston Red Sox, they fucking suck, dude. The Red Sox, they lost with Garrett Crochet on the mound. The Red Sox have lost half of his starts, even though Crochet is putting up Cy Young-like numbers. The Red Sox still can't win behind him. The Red Sox offense sucks. Their fielding sucks. Their bullpen sucks. Crochet goes out there. He gives them almost every outing. He pretty much gives them a really good start, and they just can't win for him. It's disgusting. I hate it. Red Sox couldn't do anything yesterday. Crochet gave up 1 run early on a solo homer, I think, and the Red Sox basically were dead just because they can't score at all, not even against Milwaukee. We don't even know who's pitching for the Red Sox in this game, so who even knows what they're doing in this game? I don't know. Savale is pitching for Milwaukee, and he hasn't been good at all. 9 ERA, 1.57 whips. He's not exactly, I don't think, who Milwaukee wants on the mound here, as he hasn't gone more than 4 innings in either of his outings so far. I'm not even sure those were starts. Those might have been bullpen appearances. I don't even know, but he's been bad this season. He's allowed 4 home runs in 7 innings. I mean, granted, 3 of them were against the Yankees on the road, but still, Savale is not getting it done. And against the Red Sox, not good numbers either. The Red Sox saw him, I think, when he was over on Tampa. I think he was in the AL for a bit. 31 at-bats the Red Sox have against him. 8.5 strikeout walk ratio. Rafael has a home run off him. Overall, they have a 323 average and 901 OPS. So Savale doesn't look like he's a good, it looks like he's not in line for a good start here. Milwaukee's bullpen is not very good. The Red Sox don't even know who the hell is pitching for them. So I think the way to look in that game is probably the over. Because whoever the Red Sox decide to start, it's probably not going to be a good thing. Because it's not Crochet. So if it's not Crochet, yeah, then the Red Sox pitching is probably not going to be good. So I think an over makes sense in that game. I don't even see it here. It looks like the total right now is somewhere around 8.5, which is not a huge total. So I think probably the over is worth considering there. Cincinnati, Kansas City is a very interesting one because Brady Singer is on the mound for Cincinnati, and he's facing his former team for the first time. So Kansas City traded away Brady Singer, and usually a starting pitcher, when they get to face their former team, they're usually really pumped up, and they do pretty well, even though, of course, they're the team that got rid of them, of course, does know like that pitcher's tendencies, so they might be able to coach their hitters to be like, hey, this is how this guy throws. But still, the hitters haven't really seen them in like a full game environment. I've kind of gone back and forth on this, but I think overall, the better way to lean is for the pitcher to actually do better the first time that he faces his former team, because he gets a little bit pumped up, a little bit more angry to prove himself. Like, hey, you guys got rid of me. Well, here's what I'm going to do to you. So I think that could be the case with Singer. However, Singer has actually been bad on the road this year. Surprisingly, he's actually been way better at home. 3.29 ERA at home, even though Great American Ballpark, not a pitcher-friendly ballpark at all, but he's got a 3.29 ERA there this year, 151 opponent batting average, and on the road, a very satanic 6.66 ERA and 330 opponent batting average. So he has really, really been way worse on the road. So I don't think I really want to come in and try to play Brady Singer in this game. I don't think I want to do that. And Singer, by the way, if you look at his stats overall, he is used to playing here because he was on Kansas City for his entire career up to this point. For the last 4 years or whatever, he was on Kansas City, so he's used to pitching in Kauffman Stadium. He pitched well there last year. He had like a 3-something ERA there last year, but if you look at his entire career as a whole, his ERA is actually pretty mediocre in Kauffman Stadium. His ERA is actually, I think, kind of in the mid-4s. He actually had 2 fairly bad seasons pitching at home. So take from that what you will, but the more recent stats suggest that he did start doing better in Kauffman Stadium. So take from all of that what you will. But overall, he's not pitching well this year, though. 4.88 ERA, 1.35 whip. That's not very good at all. 7 walks to 7 strikeouts in his last couple outings. 10-10 strikeout walk ratio this month. Way over 1 hit per inning. A 7.85 ERA in the month of May. He's not pitching well. He's not in good current form whatsoever. So I don't think we can play Singer for those reasons either, even though his numbers are decent against Royals bats. Most of the Royals have not seen him in an actual game environment, like I said, because he was on their team up until this year. 10 at-bats against him between Kana and India. They're 2 for 10 off him with 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 200 average, 533 OPS. So take from all of that what you will. I said there's a lot to kind of consider here. Daniel Lynch, the 4th, is pitching for Kansas City. Talk about Kansas City Royals. That is definitely a Royal-sounding name there. And his numbers look pretty good, 1.57 ERA and 1.26 whip, although the whip kind of indicates that his ERA should be higher than that. But he has not been pitching deep at all. I mean, he's mostly been coming out of the bullpen. He did make at least 1 start, but it was like an opener start. I think it was his last outing against Minnesota, and he only got 1 guy out, and he allowed a run and walk 2 guys and didn't strike out anybody. So that wasn't exactly something that wasn't a start that really inspires confidence, let's say. So Lynch, you're only going to get like a couple of innings out of him at most, probably. He's going to come in and just try to start the game. Then they're going to go to the bullpen. His numbers are not good against the Reds lifetime, 39 at-bats. He's allowed 5 home runs to them, to 5 different hitters, which is insane. In that small of a sample size, that's crazy that many of those guys have home runs off him. 308 average, 1,069 OPS. So Lynch, it's not looking good for Lynch either here, man. These two teams, they did play yesterday, and Kansas City lost the game yesterday, 7-4. And I do believe that Cincinnati did use a little bit more of their relief staff yesterday, although I would have to go back and look. It does look like Kansas City is very public here with 85% of tickets and only 83% of the cash. Has moved up from -108 to -118, so some movement on Kansas City, but the cash percentage appears to be less so in Kansas City, somewhat indicating on the Reds, but with the way that Singer has been pitching, there's no way that I could really do it. I can't do it based on everything that I just said. I think the over probably does make sense in this game with the way both this pitching matchup lines up. The over seems to kind of make sense here, even though we're not talking about a game at Cincinnati. Total up from 8 juice to the over to 8.5, 8 juice to the over a little bit more strongly right now still. So maybe considering it over in that game. Don't want to have I would not put my trust in Singer at all coming into that game. I trust Strider a lot more today. Colorado, Chicago, the Cubs, obviously a huge favorite. I mean, what do you expect? German Marquez on the mound here. Awful numbers, 7.66 ERA, 1.68 whip. He's one of the worst starters in baseball. Is coming off a pretty good start, though, at home against Philadelphia. Somehow He actually does well specifically against Philadelphia for whatever reason. His 2 best starts of the year were both against Philadelphia, I think. He had 1 decent start against San Diego, too. So go figure, his best starts are against some good offenses. And yeah, he's facing a good offense here, but is he going to do well in this game? I would tend to doubt it. In 65 at-bats against the Cubs, they got a 277 average, 830 OPS. So not horrific numbers for Marquez there, but certainly not good. Cade Horton is pitching for the Cubs, and who knows what you're going to get out of this guy. He's a really young guy, 4.4 ERA, 1.4 whip. Those numbers aren't good. He did just walk 3 guys in his previous outing, but it was a 5 1/3 1-run outing against a bad Miami offense, sure, but not a horrible start. In his 2 other starts, he didn't walk anybody, so there are some things to like about what he's been doing so far. I mean, he's not terrible. And, of course, we're talking about a situation now where you have an awful Rockies lineup. Their offense is just terrible, especially on the road, and they're facing a pitcher they've never seen before. So I think the starting pitching edge does actually still go to the Cubs in that game. But if you want to try to play this game, I don't know how I would play it, man. I mean, we must have wind blowing in because you're looking at a total of 7.5. The wind really, really is a strong factor in Wrigley Field, man, because you're getting lake effect shit going on there. So when you see a total of 7.5 with a horrible pitcher like Marquez on the mound, it's got to mean the wind is blowing in here. But still, I mean, the way that I would probably still play that is I would probably still look to maybe go, I would either go Rockies under their team total or Cubs over their team total. So you're probably getting a really low number on the Cubs team total. So if you think Marquez does still get knocked around a bit, Cubs, you're probably going to get a low team total there. Probably like, well, it's probably still like 4.5. It might even be 5, actually. It's probably about 5, which is still pretty high, especially given how low this total is. But I think the Cubs still might be able to get that done. They have a really good offense. Or you could look for Horton to actually pitch well, though that seems a little bit dangerous. But the Rockies' offense is so bad on the road that I could see them going under their total, which is probably an under of about 2.5. It seems a little bit dangerous to do that, though. Xerox, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out, man. All right. Toronto, Texas. Of course, I gave out a play yesterday on the under in this matchup. And on the surface, you might think that this either looks like an under or it looks like a huge pitching mismatch in favor of Wnba because he's been pitching way better this season than Bowden Francis. But I would dial that back a little bit. I mean, you're right. I don't know if we could trust Bowden Francis right now. I mean, I think he's a really streaky pitcher. Like, he went from looking like he looked really bad early last year. Towards the end of last season, he looked like one of the best pitchers in baseball. Now, this season, he started out pretty decent, and then he started to hit a roadblock, and he's been really bad for about a month. So he's now looking really bad again. I don't know what to do with this guy. 5.54 ERA, 1.41 whip, really bad numbers. This month, 5.95 ERA is certainly not good. More than 1 hit allowed per inning. 17-7 strikeout walk ratio is not good either. He walked 3 guys in 4 innings his last outing. A fairly rough outing against San Diego. He only allowed 2 earned runs there. Still, he's only allowed more than 4 earned runs in 1 start against my Boston Red Sox, which was a start where he allowed 5 home runs, which is really insane. But that was kind of the start. Like, that was, I guess, the second bad start that he had in this recent really bad stretch. At some point, I think he's going to come back into form again, though, man. And is it going to be against a weak offense like the Texas Rangers? Well, it could be. His numbers against the Rangers are pretty good. In 30 at-bats, 167 average. Garcia does have a home run off him, but 167 average and 542 OPS. So Bowden Francis does have really good numbers against this Texas offense. And then the complete opposite is the case with Wnba. So Bowden Francis has bad numbers on the season. He's in bad recent form, but his numbers against the Rangers are really good. And as you'll see in a second, Wnba has really good numbers on the season, really good recent numbers, but his numbers against Toronto are actually terrible. So it's like, what do we do with this? I don't know. He's in really good current form with a .73 ERA this month, including starts at Boston, at Detroit, at the Yankees. That's not easy to do, and he allowed 2 earned runs combined across those couple of starts, 25-6 strikeout walk ratio this month. He's been one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball. He's only allowed more than 2 earned runs in a start 1 time. And since April 19th, he hasn't allowed more than 1 earned run in any start. absolute domination from Eovaldi, but I mean, it's impossible to keep this up over the course of an entire season. And maybe he has a setback here against Toronto because in 129 at-bats, Toronto has seen a ton of them because he was on the Red Sox. He's been in their division before. He has a 20-9 strikeout walk ratio against them, which is not great. A 341 average and 903 OPS allowed. So Toronto, their batters have hit Eovaldi well. Vlad Guerrero's 10 for 23 off him with a home run and a couple of walks. Kirk is 6 for 10 off him with a couple of doubles and 3 walks. Santander is 7 for 27 with a home run off him, or Santander. Springer 7 for 26 with a home run off him. Santander, the bank. So, I mean, you could, and Bo Bichette 8 for 25 with a home run. So you could look for player props, take some of these guys, hits plus runs plus RBIs, maybe to go over. I would say Bichette, Guerrero, Kirk, their numbers are all really, really good against Eovaldi. So we could see Eovaldi struggle in this game, man. And we're looking at a situation where, yes, I know Toronto did win yesterday, but Kevin Gausman got them 8 innings yesterday, and DeGrom was out of the game earlier than Gausman was, so Toronto pretty much saved their bullpen yesterday, even though Texas does have the better bullpen overall. I might have a slight lean to Toronto in this game, man, just based on the matchup numbers. It could be a game where Bowden Francis actually returns to form, and Eovaldi does not do as well. I don't want to bank on it, but the money is really agreeing with that, as Texas is down from minus 162 to minus 139. 68% of tickets on Texas, but 80% of the cash coming in on Toronto. And Toronto does still have the better bats, even though they struggled for a large portion of the season. I think Toronto's offense is the better offense. So you're getting the better offense, the better of the starting pitching matchup, at least matchup-wise, and you're getting the more rested bullpen, at least. So the Texas does still have the better bullpen. Eovaldi is still the better overall pitcher. And I would say probably some of the professional money that appears to be coming in on Toronto here is probably just because I think there's value, because I think the line just came out too high on Texas given the potential of this matchup here. But I do agree with it. I would still lean to Toronto in that game. I don't quite want to do it, though. I kind of want to scroll through and just make sure that the games that I've already given out here are still looking decent here as far as the market percentages. I hate when the percentages kind of like flip last minute. Getting a little bit worried about San Francisco, but I think we'll still stick with it. The A's and Houston. This one is kind of interesting, man. Houston, they're staying at home. I think both teams had yesterday off. The A's are coming in to start a road trip. So again, usually it is a positive spot when you start a road trip. Usually our focus to start a road trip. And I think the A's probably have a little bit more motivation here than Houston does, because the A's have been kind of a little brother in this division in the AL West, whereas Houston's been kind of one of the dominant forces. Hi, Robin. What's up? I'm not even sure what that means exactly, but all right. Let's see. It's some communist gobbledygook, I think. All right. But yeah, so I think the A's do have a little bit more motivation, and if you do like the A's, you are getting at least probably their best starting pitcher. I mean, that's not saying much, but J.P. Sears has been pretty good. A 4 ERA is decent at least. 1.15 whip is actually quite good. Maybe the Yankees shouldn't have gotten rid of him, although the Yankees starting rotation is pretty good this year, so they probably don't care that much. Sears did pitch well against the Yankees a couple of starts ago. I would say he's in mediocre form this month. The 12-4 strikeout walk ratio is pretty good, but he got lit up against Anaheim for 6 runs. Although if you look at that game, he got a bit unlucky because he allowed 4 home runs in the game. And yes, it was at home in that very home run conducive, ridiculous AAA stadium that the homeless A's play in right now. But he still had command, as he had a 4.0 strikeout walk ratio there, 12-4 over the course of the month. That's not really that bad. 5.75 ERA this month is getting skewed by that 4 home run outing. Yeah, and against San Francisco before that, he did walk 3 guys and only strike out 2. So I guess there are some causes for concern there, which is why I'm not going to give out a play on the A's here. But Sears actually has been pretty good against Houston. An 87 at bats, 253 average, 677 OPS, 4-3 strikeout walk ratio is not good. That's a really, really low strikeout rate. But overall, he has kept Houston's bats in check when he's faced them. Hunter Brown is pitching for Houston. Of course, we know Hunter Brown is really, really good. 2.04 ERA, .91 whip. He's been excellent on the season, but he's in the worst form that he's been in over the course of the season, although granted it was only in one start where he maybe got a little bit unlucky as well and gave up 3 home runs, which I gave out a play on the show on Houston in that game, and he didn't pitch well in the game, and I think part of it was probably the Steinbrenner Stadium effect there. That was another AAA stadium that Tampa Bay plays in this year, and it is a fairly home run conducive stadium, so I think Hunter Brown just kind of lapsed and got caught in that game. So maybe I wouldn't really say he's actually in bad form here, as he does have a 31-9 strikeout walk ratio this month, a 3.28 ERA this month, and against the A's, I'm assuming. Actually, I don't know if I would assume anything. I think his numbers might not be that good against the A's. No, they're not. And 41 at bats, 341 average, and 787 OPS against the A's. So the A's bats have done really well against Brown. But now here's the thing that you have to kind of figure out in this game. Do you want to go purely based on these matchup statistics, or do you have to kind of dial it back a little bit because, well, Hunter Brown is way better now than he was when these statistics happened. Like, these are not from this season. These are from the past seasons where Hunter Brown was a young guy. I mean, he's still a young guy, but he had some growing pains in the major leagues. He didn't have it all figured out yet. So he was a worse pitcher then than he is now. He's a much better pitcher now. So, like, what do? You kind of have to figure that it's going to be somewhere in the middle, right? Like, he might not completely dominate the A's, but he should do better than what these numbers would suggest. This is actually pretty difficult to figure out what's going to happen in this game, to be honest. Like, I could see arguments for grabbing the A's as some sort of underdog here, just because Houston is favored by so much, because at this point I think you're actually kind of paying a little bit of a tax for Brown, even though Brown didn't pitch well in his last outing. They're up from -170 to -208, and I think that was actually maybe a false move, because now what we're seeing is 84% of the tickets on Houston, but 76% of the cash on Houston, so less of the cash percentages on Houston. So I think what that means is some professionals probably came in. I talk about this in baseball a lot. The lower limits that you have, like overnight and whatever, a lot of the professional bettors will actually come in because they know they garner enough respect to move the line. They'll actually come in and throw some money on the side they don't want at a smaller amount, so the books have to move the number because they don't know if it's a real play or not from these guys, because sometimes it will be, sometimes it's not. And then later, so sometimes you'll see the line move for that reason, and then if you see the percentages later on actually disagree with that move, I think it's because that initial move was false, and then at that better number, the actual professional money started coming in, and they started putting bigger money in on the other side. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's happening here. So if you want to take like Oakland plus 1.5 runs on the run line, could be the way to go here. I wouldn't really disagree with an under in this game either, just because I do expect Brown to be better than what his numbers are historically against Oakland, and Sears isn't really that bad either, and Houston's offense is not terribly impressive. Plus, Houston's bullpen is good. Oakland's bullpen is not very good, but both teams rested yesterday, so that is kind of a spot where I do tend to like the under more so than the over when you have rested bullpens. 73% of tickets, only 63% of the cash on the over. And, of course, it does mean the bats could be a little bit cooled off as well. So the cash percentage does look like it's kind of agreeing with the under there. And the odds makers threw it out at 7.5 for a reason, because they're thinking this is probably going to be a lower scoring game with pretty much both teams have their best starting pitcher on the mound in this game. So you can't really, I don't think you can really disagree with that statement. So we'll see what happens in that game. Scott, thank you, sir. Yeah, well, I already talked about the Royals, but I was going to make some sort of Lord reference. I don't know. My mind is not quite up there right now. It's too early for me, man. It's early in the morning, even though I know it's 10 a.m. now. But I don't know. We'll never be Royals, right? What do the lyrics go like again? Something about it ain't in our blood. I forget what it is. Battletoads are real. Yes, they are. I'm one of them. Yeah, thank you, sir. We'll never be Royals. All right. What do we got? We got a few more games here. I do think I have one more play on a total somewhere in here. It's not this game. Yankees and Anaheim. This is, I don't know what we're going to get in this game. Yankees won the game yesterday. I mean, of course, the Yankees are the better team. They have the better offense. They have the better bullpen. And I believe they have the better starting pitcher here as well, as Rodon has been pitching pretty well this season. 2.88 ERA, 0.96 whip. Really good this month with a 1.9 ERA, 28-7 strikeout walk ratio. A few too many walks, but most of it came in that one game against the Mets, where he still pretty much kept them off the board. He's pitching well, although Anaheim actually has good numbers off him, surprisingly. 56 at-bats. They actually have 4 home runs off him, 16-6 strikeout walk ratio, 304 average, and 925 OPS. So do we trust Rodon? Because he is in good form here, but his numbers against Anaheim are not very good. Is he still better than Tyler Anderson, though? I mean, yeah, I think in general he is. As Anderson has really started to kind of slide, which I said he would because he's really not as good as he looked early in the season. And now this month he has a 5.06 ERA and a 16-9 strikeout walk ratio. His last outing against the A's, he had 6 walks and no strikeouts. And granted, that was at that horrible A's stadium, but that stadium, you can explain why you allow home runs in that stadium. You can't explain why you walk 6 guys and you don't strike anybody out. That means that Anderson's command is definitely lapsing right now. He's not in good form right now. 3.6 ERA in the season is good, but 1.24 whip, not as good. And if you look at his career stats, I mean, he's a 35-year-old pitcher, man. He's not as good. And Anaheim is basically notorious for not having good pitching coaching, so I don't really think Anderson... I think he's probably kind of done. He might have other, stretches where he does well this season, but he's not as good as he looked early this season. Against the Yankees, though, he actually has okay numbers and 72 at-bats. Well, I guess we have to define what okay is, because he has a 236 average allowed to them, which is good. But then on the other hand, a 23-15 strikeout walk ratio is horrific, although Goldschmidt has 7 of those walks. 5 for 15 off him with 7 walks. Some of those are probably intentional, but still, that strikeout walk ratio is terrible. So the 236 average is good, but a 743 OPS is not as good. So Anderson, I don't really trust him. I could definitely see some arguments for an over in this game because Rodon doesn't have good numbers against Anaheim. Tyler Anderson, I think, is completely untrustworthy. We know the Yankees can hit. The money's coming in on the under, though. 67% of tickets on the under and 94% of the cash on the under, with it dropping from 9 juice to the under to 9, more heavily juiced to the under. I don't know what to expect here, man. And the Yankees, of course, are public. 87% of tickets, only 74% of the cash. So if you think there's value on Anaheim with a line like that, just because Rodon doesn't have historically good numbers against Anaheim, maybe. But I would not want to have my money on Tyler Anderson, man. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I've been considering doing that, doing basically what Assbutt does with his live music streams, where he just kind of fucks around. Maybe I'll do it, man. Now that I do have some time, until I figure out what I'm going to do next, I could start doing that and hope to actually get viewers and hope to monetize it. Do people really want to just see me fuck around on the ukulele for a couple hours, once a week or something? I really don't know, man. Wills, what's up, man? Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Yeah, I really don't know. I'm considering it because it's basically, it would be just me turning the camera on when I do it anyway, man. I'll sit around and just try to learn songs and fuck around on the uke anyway. So it would basically just be me recording that. All right. You're telling me not to? Why is that? Oh, well, that's a completely different message. All right. That's one of the worst autocorrects ever when it corrects to the opposite of what you actually wanted to say. Miami and San Diego, we got Max Meyer and Steven Kolek. This is an interesting game. These teams did play yesterday, and San Diego won in extra innings, so the bullpens got extra used yesterday because it went 11 innings, so you got to keep that in mind. Miami's bullpen is not very good. San Diego's is, again, I would say a pretty good. They were an elite bullpen early in the season. They're pretty good talent-wise. They're one of the better bullpens as well. Right now, they're probably about a top third bullpen still. Max Meyer pitching for the Marlins. I like this guy. He did have a bout where he went into bad form and allowed 5 earned runs in 3 starts in a row. But he's kind of coming back into form here. He just had a really nice start against a very good offense in the Chicago Cubs. Held them to 1 run on a solo home run, a 4-1 strikeout walk ratio. So Meyer, not great this month with a 5.64 ERA, 16-6 strikeout walk ratio, is okay, but he does seem to be returning to form a little bit here. And I like Meyer. These young guys that have good stuff. He is pretty good. Overall, his numbers not horrible. 4.15 ERA, 1.28 whip. Against San Diego, though, it hasn't been good for him. They're 6 for 17 off him lifetime. I know it's a small sample size. Only 1 strikeout, no walks, 353 average, 824 OPS. So San Diego has hit Meyer pretty well, but I think that's all in seasons prior to this one. So Meyer is finally kind of coming into form this season. So I don't really know if we should put that much weight into his past numbers against San Diego when he was still kind of figuring things out and trying to figure things out. We're trying to figure out what Steven Kolek really is for San Diego. 2.84 ERA, 1.26 whip on the season. He's been good this season. 21-8 strikeout walk ratio is not bad. Fewer than 1 hit per inning. What are we going to get out of him in this game? I don't know. I mean, he's only allowed more than 3 earned runs in 1 start. He allowed 0 in his first 2 starts, but they were against Pittsburgh and Colorado, who both suck offensively, but he had a complete game shutout at Coors Field, which is definitely impressive, although since then he's been not quite as good. Against Miami, they're 0 for 3 off him lifetime with a strikeout, so very small sample size, but he has kept Miami off the board. So what do we expect in this game? Well, it is a pitcher-friendly park. You have 2 young pitchers who actually seem like they have decent stuff, so I think an under is possibly a way to look here. Total looks like it's gone up a little bit with the 7.5 with juice to the over, but I think an under might be the way to look in that game. Speaking of unders, my last play is going to be a first 5-inning under in Pittsburgh, Arizona, even though I know Chase Field is a very hitter-conducive ballpark. I understand that, but I think the under makes sense here, and we don't want anything to do with these bullpens. Arizona used a decent amount of their bullpen yesterday. Their bullpen is not good. Pittsburgh's bullpen is not good either. Let's take them out of the equation. I know Arizona does hit well. Pittsburgh does not hit well. But I think that both starting pitchers here can actually help us out with this under, and it's a pretty high total for a first 5. Total, you can get a 4.5 at even money right now, so I like this. I think you're getting value right now on Mike Burrows because he's a rookie, I believe, and I think this was his major league debut his last time out, and he didn't do well. He allowed 4 earned runs against Milwaukee, but Milwaukee's a good hitting team, and he only allowed 4 hits in the game. Yes, he walked 2 guys. He was a little bit, I think, maybe a little bit nervous. 3 strikeouts, not terrible. But he allowed 2 home runs in the game, which I think is a little bit unlucky. So it means maybe he pitched a little bit better than it looks. I mean, 7.2 ERA, 1.2 whip. You can't take away a lot from that, but he didn't put that many men on base in that start. It's just a lot of the runs came home because he allowed 2 home runs. So I think he is going to do better. I talked about him coming into that game, and he has okay stuff. Like, he's got enough pitches. Like, he's got basically 4 pitches. So I think he does have kind of a starting pitcher's arsenal. I don't think he really comes in and blows hitters away, but his numbers in AAA this year are actually pretty good. He had like an ERA in the 2s. I think his whip was like pretty low as well, like somewhere in the 1.2 range, maybe even lower than that. So I think Burrows might actually be pretty decent. Actually, that wasn't his debut. That was his first start, but he did make 1 relief appearance last year. So really not a whole lot we can gather from a couple of short appearances so far. But I think a young guy like Burrows here, if he's starting to get used to pitching in the majors, he now has that 1 start out of the way under his belt, and it actually kind of looked worse than it actually was. Yes, I know this is a tough assignment facing a really good offense against Arizona, but Milwaukee's offense, pretty good as well. That was a tough assignment. So Burrows, young guy like this with decent stuff. I think he does have a little bit of an edge over the hitters that haven't seen him before. So we're going to go with that. And then, I think both offenses are probably going to have to do damage to get this thing over. Although usually that's more the case with the complete game, with the full game total rather than the first 5-inning total. But Corbin Burns, we're hoping we just get some domination out of him against a really weak offense. And I think we could. 2.73 ERA, 1.18 whip from Burns. Burns, he definitely started off a little bit shaky this season, even though he still didn't allow more than 4 earned runs in any start. But the month of May, he's returned completely to form with 2 really good outings against the Dodgers. So that's a good sign. And one against the Mets prior to that. So he's pitched well. Didn't do bad against the Cubs not that long ago either. So he's pitching well right now against some of the best offenses in baseball. 1.35 ERA this month, 23-6 strikeout walk ratio. All that's really good. Burns, he's basically returned to kind of his ace form. And against Pittsburgh, 118 at bats against him. He's done really well against him. A 1.69 average, a 169 batting average, 510 OPS. So he has really good numbers against Pittsburgh as well. I mean, they've seen a bunch of him because he was in their division up until like basically 2 years ago, but it hasn't even mattered. Pittsburgh's offense just really kind of lacks, they really lack skill. They lack ability. So Burns should have a good start here. So I like the under in the first 5 innings in that game. That is a recommended play there. Whip is walks and hits per innings pitched. So it's basically how many earned base runners you give up per inning pitched, which I think is a better indicator than ERA. Because if you put guys on base, that's like the metric that you really care about more, because it kind of comes down to almost like luck and like timely hitting as far as like, do those runs actually score or not? Like if you're putting guys on base, that means that you're likely to give up runs. So that's what it is. It's how many walks and hits you allow per inning. So like how many, it doesn't factor in like if guys reach on errors and stuff like that. So like stuff out of the pitcher's control. Yeah, it's like the sandwich spot. No, not really. Miracle Whip, that's right. Duke's Mayo. Well, you can watch the Duke's Mayo Bowl, where the winning coach of that bowl game gets mayo dumped on their head. All right, and let's finish this off. Final game is Washington at Seattle. Seattle, they're returning home from a road trip, which is a fairly long road trip where they were on the Pacific Coast. They swept San Diego. Then they went to the Central Time Zone, beat Chicago, and lost a tough divisional series to Houston. So I think this is a bad spot for Seattle, actually returning home again. You had a long, long road trip. You're returning back home. You have stuff to do at home. I think it is a bit of a distraction, especially when you're playing a National League team that isn't a very good team. I think Seattle could get caught here, but the problem is, even though the situation looks good for Washington, Washington's starting a road trip here, which is also a focus spot when you start a road trip. You're coming off a losing series at home. One of the best things for you is to just get out of there, forget about it, go on the road. So it is a good situational spot for Washington, but Washington's bullpen sucks. Their offense really isn't that good either. And do we want anything to do with Mitchell Parker here? I'm not so sure that we do. 4.39 ERA and 1.3 whip. I mean, he's not been great. He hasn't been good this month. 16-9 strikeout walk ratio is pretty concerning. And 8 ERA. I mean, he did have a 4.1 strikeout walk ratio in his last outing against Atlanta, so that was a little bit better. But he has not been in great form for a bit now. I mean, he's not pitching that well. Against Seattle, though, probably not a huge sample size historically. Let me see. Only 2 of Seattle's hitters have ever seen him before. Arozarena and Tellez, and they're 0 for 4 off him with 2 strikeouts and a walk, so a 0 average, 200 OPS. So Parker may have a little bit of an edge there, just in that Seattle's offense hasn't seen him before. Logan Evans, on the other hand, he's a rookie, young guy, 3.33 ERA so far is pretty good, but a 1.44 whip isn't that great. Putting too many guys on base, there's your whip again, but he hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in any of his starts so far, and he is actually starting to pitch pretty well. He's going deeper into games. They're letting him go about 90 pitches in every start now. That outing against the White Sox wasn't as bad as it looked, really. Still only allowed 4 earned runs, but he allowed 3 home runs in the game, so that was really all the damage that he allowed. He had a 7-1 strikeout walk ratio. He has a 3.27 ERA this month. 18-6 strikeout walk ratio is not that bad. Problem is 28 hits in 22 innings. That's a problem. He's got to stop allowing hits, but over his last 3 outings where he's gone, 17 innings, he's gotten the hits down a little bit, and he's allowed 18 hits over that span. I think so that's a little bit better. So Evans kind of starting to pitch a little bit better, coming into form, and of course Washington has never seen him before. So I think that the way to play this, probably when you have 2 kind of young pitchers that just haven't been seen before by these opposing hitters, I think the under is probably the way to look here. The total's dropped a little from 8 to 8, juice the under a little bit. You got teams that I believe were off yesterday, so again, bullpens are at least rested, although Washington's bullpen is terrible. So if you want to go first 5 innings under, get a number of about 4, somewhere in that range on that. I don't mind that either. Maybe that's the better way to do it, just because Washington's bullpen is so bad. Seattle's bullpen is good, though. Both bullpens are rested, and the offense could be a little bit cold for Seattle here, so I don't hate the under there in general. So that's that's it. That's the breakdown for today, man. Oh, thank you, Xerox. Well, thank you, Scott. Thank you, sir. Yeah, getting Mayo dumped on you, man. It looks very homoerotic, really. That's gonna do it for me, man. Plays today are in the WNBA, laying the points with Minnesota, and then 3 baseball plays: San Francisco money line, Atlanta money line, and under first 5 innings, Pittsburgh, Arizona. That's going to do it. Again, I'm not actually betting these for the time being to try to conserve some money here, but those are the plays that I would be betting if I was. Those are the picks. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter. GiveSendGo.com/TowerGangToad if you want to throw some support. While I still leave the fundraiser up for probably about another week or so, and then I'll take it down because the movement is definitely slowed down, man. We tried to capitalize on the movement. It's been decent. I thank you guys for the support. And go to patreon.com/TowerGang and support Tower Gang as well, which that money goes back into doing stuff for the show. And come get your Bohemian Grove tickets, man. I don't know how many are left, but come see us live in late June. Follow Covered in Uke as well. Yeah, I haven't put anything up there in a long time, man. Most of my Uke covers are just on Twitter. But you can go. Maybe I'll do some live streams there. Probably don't want to do the HH cover there though, because I don't want to get that channel nuked, unfortunately. So I hate all this, man. Screw cancel culture. That's gonna do it for me for now. Got to get some stuff done today, man. Let's have a good day, everybody, and thanks for watching. Peace out.